What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fighter One podcast, the podcast dedicated to all difficult endeavors. I am here with my co-host, Jazzy Jeff Creighton.
What's going on? How we doing, Brandon?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. A lot of things working up in the works here. Super glad to start doing this at the Hendo Dome.
Heck yeah, first episode.
In the attic.
Yeah.
So if you want to just talk a little bit about what you got going on.
Yeah,
right now.
so, if you guys don't know, my name's Jefferson Creighton. Might also know me as Jazzy Jeff Creighton. I'm a professional fighter, originally from Jacksonville, North Carolina, and live in Valley Center, and now I've been training at Dan Henderson's gym the last couple years. And yeah, looking to get to be the best fighter in the world. That's my goal. And, just going through the journey. Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, you've been killing it, man.
Yeah.
All this, I've watched like the last few fights you had,
right.
especially with like the Uriah Faber stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty like convincingly.
Yeah,
It's been going
very convincing, dominant. Not getting the finish, which I wish would happen, but dominant nonetheless.
Yeah.
So
I don't think a lot of that is your fault though. Like I was a little things were a little interesting after that Bellator fight.
I
feel like.
Okay. Yeah.
Especially with the way that Joey kind of went about that.
Yeah.
You know, just like
for the viewers. So I fought back last March at Bellator 293, where I fought Joey Davis. It was a split decision, and I was a 10-1 underdog. And Joey just, like you said, it was kind of weird. Joey didn't really come to fight, and I kind of figured that was going to happen at weigh-ins when I looked him in the eye. I could just kind of tell he was very uneasy. And, I got the win, which was the most important thing, but it was a strange fight nonetheless.
It kind of reminded me a lot watching that fight that we could actually talk about too last night, the Sean Strickland fight.
Oh, yeah.
Where, like, he would go for takedowns, but there was no, like, trying to advance them to anything. It was mainly just, like, takedowns for the sake of takedowns.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's just a big controversy, right, kind of right now. Like, how much do takedowns really, I guess, how do you score really takedowns? Are they, if you get somebody in the air and you lift them high and slam them, I think that's like pretty effective.
Like
it at least looks good. There's some damage to it. But for guys to just take them down and then put their head in their crotch and not do anything, then it's like, okay, well, you're not really doing anything. You're not doing anything effective. And you're, like you said, you're not, Dreykus never advanced to a position where he could finish the fight from there. So how effective really were those takedowns?
There was a couple of them there where he just took them down and then immediately went right back to the feet. Like he backed off of them to get back off.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's like, what?
Seemed like he was more buying time.
Yeah.
More
it was almost like he was getting teed up a little bit and he wanted to like slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, take a chill pill, Sean.
See where they were at.
Yeah, for sure.
What'd you think of that event?
I thought it was good. I mean, I thought Sean won the fight. I thought he won 1, 2, and 5. That's how I had it. He for sure won 5. 1 and 2, I thought he won pretty decisively. And then I was kind of surprised how Sean didn't quite adapt as well as I thought he would to the headbutt and getting cut. And he even said it himself. He's like, kind of threw me off. And when there's that much blood in a fight, I could throw people off a bit. But I just thought with somebody with as much experience as him, it wouldn't have really affected him at all. But it did, so.
I'm kind of the belief, like especially with fights like that, I almost feel like the challenger kind of has to take it from you.
100%. It's always been like that in the past. You got to beat the champion.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, I mean,
you got to beat the champion decisively.
We could say with the viewers here, like we've been having Dominic Reyes.
Oh yeah.
Him training with him, great dude, love the guy. I kind of felt the same way with that John Jones fight that he had. You know, where I felt like round 1 through 3.
Yeah.
He pretty decisively like took care of business, and then it was 4 and 5 where John just took over.
Right.
You know.
And it's always what the judges see last, sadly. And that's why when going back to Sean's fight, when he won 5 pretty decisively, in my opinion, I thought he had it. I thought it was safe. I thought he was like, okay, he definitely won 3 rounds, and Dreykus didn't beat him decisively at all. He didn't do anything very decisive. So I thought he would have won, and it's kind of sad. Kind of sucks to see. I kind of like the Sean show.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So hopefully they run it back. I know they're going to try to make probably Dreykus versus Izzy because it just makes sense because of the build-up.
Yeah.
But it would be cool to see Sean back in there. And I think the people love Sean. He is the people's champ.
He is the people's
champ.
champion.
And he's good for, he's just good for the sport, I think.
I think that's why a lot of people are kind of leaning towards the UFC stuff so much is it's kind of like the last bastion of like not infusing politics into the sport, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Seems like since like 2020, like all of them have just been like infusing all this stuff that just kind of like dwindles down the sport a little bit and makes people have to like choose sides.
I'm super glad that Dana on the post-fight press conference was like, I don't put a leash on any of my guys. Well, he had some reporter saying like, oh, you give your guys a pretty long leash. And he's like, what leash? I don't put a leash on anybody.
Yeah.
You know, freedom of speech. And then and the reporter was like, okay, yeah, I was gonna ask that, but not anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is true.
That's probably a good idea.
In the UFC, it's great to see that. Yeah, like you said, in other sports in America, football, basketball, politics kind of has been seeping its way in to the sport the last 10 years, I would say.
Yeah.
But with the UFC, it's the fight game, man. You can bring politics into it if you want, but like you can only BS so much. And like you're dealing with fighters. Fighters are a different breed than just like athletes. They're not just athletes, they're fighters.
Yeah.
And I feel like that you can't you can't try to like, I don't know how to word it per se, but like they're going to say how they feel. And because fighting's such a raw sport, they're very raw people and they're going to let you know how they feel. And if you don't agree with it, cool, you can try to cancel them, but Dana's not going to allow that. And I think that's great for the sport and for the company. So
yeah, they're definitely trying to like paint this like homophobic type thing, but you can obviously see like none of that's
people
true.
Aren't buying it.
I mean, like look at Raquel Pennington, like winning the belt. She's got her wife in there. Like nobody's like talking down at her or nothing. Like
100%.
There's zero hate. It's all just drummed up and it's completely fake.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think I've ever actually asked you how you got into martial arts, and then maybe a little bit about what your families thought.
Yeah,
when you said, I'm gonna be a fighter.
Yeah. How I got into martial arts. So I started playing soccer when I was a kid. That was my first love. I love soccer.
You just wanted to kick heads.
Yeah, man. I get yellow card every game. I was used to that. But I had a buddy. His name's Jerome Graham. Buddy back from Jacksonville, North Carolina. He was gonna go wrestle. We were in middle school together at Newbridge Middle, and he was like, "Hey, they're having wrestling tryouts. You should wrestle." He's like, "You're scrappy. Come do the wrestling tryout with me." I was like, "All right." I knew nothing about wrestling. So I go to the tryout, ended up liking it a lot just because of how physical it was. And that was kind of like my first taste of combat sports. And once I wrestled in 7th grade, I placed like, I think 3rd at the district championships or whatever. And after that, I was hooked.
You're like, I'm the fucking best.
I'm the best, man. Yeah, like, no, I was like, wow, this is my sport now. Like, I could tell I really loved it. And so, you know, from my 7th grade to 8th grade summer, I trained like super hard, was out in my side yard throwing tires and doing a bunch of crazy stuff because I really loved the sport. And I loved soccer and wrestling at the time. I wrestled all the way till my freshman year at Jacksonville, North Carolina. Then I moved to Poway. And in Poway, in California, soccer and wrestling are at the same time. So you got to choose. And I was like, oh, I'm picking wrestling. Poway is really known for really good wrestling. I was like, I'm at the best school for wrestling. I'm going to wrestle. So that was kind of like my deciding factor, and I kind of gave up soccer, which was my first love. And so wrestled all the way to my senior year, but had already dabbled in some training. I was training at Black House, Team Noguera, which was in Miramar. When they were open, I was there training when I was like 15, 16. And then my senior year of high school, I went to the arena where I met Vince Salvador, Charles Martinez. Those were my two coaches who really built up my game. And that's how I got started. I was hooked. So first, while I was a senior, had my first amateur fight while I was still in high school, fought, won, and then I was hooked. I was like, this is what I want to do, for sure. And so my family at first was like, whoa, Jeff, like, this is crazy that you actually like want to do this. My mom was my biggest supporter through all of it. She's scared as can be, of course, at any of the fights, but at first, my dad was like, what's the end game here? Like, what are you really trying to do? And I kind of, at that point, didn't really know. I was just like, I just know I want to do this. And so, yeah, I went for it, and we're here now. So that's how I got started in this journey. So
yeah, it's a wild journey, dude.
It is. A lot of ups and downs.
Just from being with you guys, like, the last year.
Yeah.
You know? I would say, like, if I was a parent thinking about it, it's not so much obviously, yeah, like injuries and stuff are like a big part of this does the sport, but I feel like there's not like a clear path to success.
100%.
You know, like you see like these football stars, like they go to college and now they're getting paid millions of dollars in college and like there's like a clear path. Like you go to college, then you go to
you perform well enough, you go to
pros.
NFL. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't feel like there's like a clear, because then you have some people like Bo Nickel where it's like you just wrestle a bunch in college and then you have like a few fights and all of a sudden it's like, bam, contender series.
Yeah.
And then you have some guys that you're like 15 fights in and it's like hard to get. Like, figure out where you're going or what you're doing, you know?
I think a part of that is because the sport is so new. And I think the sport's slowly moving in that direction where there's more pathways to real money. I know they're trying to get, MMA in the Olympics, try to go that route.
Which would be huge.
I know they just had, they're trying to get like a college, I guess, program for MMA and starting them in schools, stuff like that. So I think the sport is just so new and it's so raw. There's a million ways to skin a cat and there's different avenues to get to where you want to go. Yeah. But there's no like clear path. And I think that's what scares, it would scare me if my kid was doing something like that. There's no clear path and it's such a raw thing and such a dangerous thing. So I understood why my parents felt that way, but I was just that passionate.
I kind of get it though, because you look at any business that you start, there's no guarantee of success in anything. No. You know?
You just got to work real hard.
Yeah.
And,
so that's the way I think of it. Like in a lot of ways, it's almost like you're creating your own business. You don't have a product. You're just
investing in yourself and in the sport. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So it's very similar.
Yeah.
You know? There's a lot that goes into it. I mean, I see you guys, you're on the verge of throwing up.
Yeah. Today. Throwing up, there's a lot of like, to get to that high level, more than just working hard and the training aspect, it's also the things that like people can't see as far as, like the financial aspect. Like right now, all I do is train and teach. Yeah. So I don't have a ton of money, but I love the sport. I'm super passionate about it. And I think I have this goal where I do truly think I could be the best in the world. And so that keeps me just going, and keep chasing it. And
that's a big thing that I learned just being here is like, I feel like, especially like with what you guys do is it's very like underappreciated.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
There's, just seeing like the way that because you guys have been really raw with me. Like you told me like financially, like, oh, I might have to get another job. Like all this, like tell me like all your guys' struggles. And I'm on that struggle bus too.
Yeah,
I get it,
Yeah.
And but it's just crazy. Like I watch like what you guys do in here, and you're almost like you have such a community, at the gym here where you know everybody's kids, and you're all you do everything that you can for them.
Right.
And there's so much, and I've never had that in my life. Like I went to like elementary school, and then I got homeschooled after that, just because where I lived was like super sketchy. And tons of like kids getting into drug dealing in middle school and stuff, and my parents wanted me to like not
steer away from that.
Into that,
Yeah.
And but just seeing like the community that you guys have it's just amazing,
Yeah, 100%. The gym here, we have a fight team, but it is a real family-oriented gym, and I personally really love that. The last gym that I was at the arena, it was the same way. It was more, I would say there was less kids. There wasn't like a kids program, but it was more family-oriented. Like everybody was close. All the training partners knew each other. We would all hang out. It's very similar here, except it's more family-oriented because there's a huge kids program here. It's really successful. Like I talk to the kids every day, what I mean? It just feels like in passing, like, we're like one team here and kind of just like one unit.
Same thing with like Joe too. Like in his whole crew, it's like they train classes in the morning, and then and then he's like taking these kids out to lunch and hanging out with them all day. Like
it takes a lot of sacrifice to keep like a place this special running, and I got to give kudos to Joe. Joe is like, we have one of the best. I think we have the best now kids program in the nation.
Yeah.
As far as like
competition and
pancreation, and that's mostly due to Joe. and Joe has his own gym. That he runs, and then is here Monday and Wednesdays to help run Dan's, and so
drives hours a day to make that happen.
100%. And so to like build the community he has between both gyms is just it's crazy. It takes a guy like Joe though to do something like that, and so I can appreciate that, and I'm happy he's my head coach. So
definitely we got a good thing going here.
Yeah, it's definitely, and as far as the fight team goes, it's definitely quality, not quantity. We don't have a ton of guys here. We're not like a super team. And I think I just feel like people overlook the smaller teams. Everybody's like American Top Team, Kill Cliff, these major gyms that have super teams. We're kind of flying under the radar right now, and I kind of like that.
It just comes down to success, I think. As soon as, because I can kind of see the trajectory that like you and Trevor and Richie, all these guys,
right?
You guys are on the trajectory of getting where you're gonna go,
right?
Like I know Richie. I don't know, does he have a fight schedule for Cage
Warriors? I don't
Warriors
think he does yet. And he's one of those guys who hasn't fought in a while, but he's one of those guys we got to get him busy, And all of us, it's 2024, and we're all getting older. It's a young man's sport. So your hourglass is flipped and it's going. You got to make the most out of it. But we have a really good team here, and like we have the talent here. It's not that we don't have the talent. It's just we haven't quite found our avenue, each one of us, and so we're kind of in the midst of that right now. It's cool to watch.
It's kind of it's a little frustrating for me because like obviously since I'm an outsider, I get like the fly on the wall kind of perspective.
Right.
And I think one of the biggest issues with this whole like fight thing is just like getting to the cage.
Yeah.
Like you look at people like Mason, like he was with Cage Warriors for a while now, and it's like people backing out, injuries, like what has it been, like 2 years?
It's been about a year and a half, I think.
And he's been trying to get a fight that whole time.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably the hardest part. Like you get a fight scheduled and you're like, please God, please let me get in that cage.
Please 100%. It's just a battle to get to the cage. It's a fight to get to the cage. The fighting itself is for me at least is like the easiest part. And I think for most fighters, I think most people would say that it's everything leading up to it. Like just to get there is a battle in itself, and you're going against kind of the grain. You're training you're training every day to fight, and so it's hard to like. You can't just like play that. You can't play fight. That's what I say. Other sports, you can play soccer, you can play football. You can't play fight. You're fighting. So to train for fighting, there's a lot of risks, and you've got to be able to weigh out those risks and train the proper way. And then also just getting, like you said, just getting fights. That's a tough thing in itself. You got to build relationships with these promoters, or your manager's got to, or you got to have a good relationship with your manager to build these relationships with promoters. That's the game. That's the game, And so it's more than just two guys get in there and fight. There's a lot more pieces to it.
Yeah, which is another thing that I would love if we get this thing going and we're able to build a community off of this. This could be an avenue for some of these amateur guys to get a little bit of exposure.
Oh, 100%.
So that they can just get fights.
Yeah, well, that's
the hardest part is just getting the fight.
Well, and that's the game too now is you said it, the exposure. Like it's all about your social media following. It's about, if you have a YouTube channel, it's about getting eyes. And like, I'm not a huge Jake Paul fan, but man, Jake Paul does a great job of getting people to watch his fights, and he's got the eyes on him. And he's a great self-marketer, and that's why he's at where he's at. That's what you have. It's a business, You can fight people, you can be good, you can be talented, but are the eyes on you? And I'll say it's how you win. Even if you're winning's great, and it's important, but how you win is what really gets people to start watching you. And so it's great to like get these amateur guys to start getting them exposure where they can fight at bigger fights and even make a pro debut on a big card. That's when like, okay, we're doing the right things. So
there's just a lot of weird things that go into it. I always wondered personally like why Demetrius Johnson wasn't more popular.
Yeah,
because that was one of the things that Dana was saying about the cards, where he was almost gonna get rid of that weight division altogether.
Right. Right.
You know, and then they ended up trading him for Ben Askren, which is like the weirdest.
Which is the worst trade of all time. You didn't get that. He definitely didn't get his investment on that one because Ben was. Once he got flying knee, he was kind of on his way out. He got on his way out, you know?
That trilogy, though, it was honestly worth it to me just for that Mariah's trilogy in one.
Oh, okay.
With DJ.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great trilogy, man.
Dude. DJ, and that's a thing. Like, the lower weight classes don't get the same credit, you know, that the bigger weight classes. And I don't know if it's because they don't get as many knockouts or what it is. I think it's exciting. They don't stop moving. I don't know. Their pace is much more than other weight classes. Yeah, maybe they don't have like the same like one-shot knockout finishes that other weight classes have, but you know, I appreciate it. I appreciate watching it, and I loved watching DJ.
I think it's a fear thing. In my opinion.
Okay.
So it's like when you see somebody like Francis Ngannou, like you look at that guy and you're like, holy shit, I'm glad that guy is not within 5 feet of me because he would kill me and eat me for lunch.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Versus, it's not a great analogy, but I always kind of feel like with those flyweight guys, it's a lot like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah,
you know, like they're like, like they're just so technical. Like the way, like you're never going to see a heavyweight throw someone in the air to a flying armbar like DJ did.
Right.
You know,
100%.
like that's just something that you're not going to see up there, which is why I like those lower ones too, because it is so technical. Like every shift and every move of any of their limbs could be like their downfall.
Yeah, and how fast everything's going on. Like I fight at 170. Things are happening pretty fast, but at that weight class, you get 125, 135. Things are just, you can't stop. You got to have the gas tank, and I can appreciate watching that as a fight fan and a fighter. You know, maybe the casual fan can't as much, but I can see it. I can see the value in it.
Yeah.
And so it's cool too to see DJ go to 1. And I feel like he's actually getting. He's not getting bigger, but he's not getting smaller.
He's getting his roses out there.
Dude. Yeah, 100%. And they're doing a good job with him. And you know, he's in some entertaining fights. The him and Rodtang fight was amazing. Personally, one of my favorite from 1. So I was like, this is going to be awesome.
I just love the way he was talking about it too. Like in that first ring.
And the special rules, like that stuff doesn't happen. The UFC doesn't do. The UFC's just different than that. They have their thing. They have what they do, which is put the best fighters together, you know, at their weight class. And I think it's great. I think the UFC's doing a great job. 1's just doing something a little different. I like that they're getting, I think now the newest one is Akiyama versus Holskin. So Akiyama fought in the UFC, Japanese MMA fighter. He's doing a special rules match against Nicky Holskin, who's just a Dutch kickboxer. So the ones kind of just they're always adapting, which I kind of like. They're always changing things up.
And they're kind of putting Muay Thai on the map too.
Muay Thai, especially the small globe Muay Thai.
I definitely agree with what Joe Rogan was talking about whenever he talks about it. He's like, I just don't get why Muay Thai is not bigger. Yeah, and I totally get it 100%. Because kickboxing seems like kickboxing got pretty big, like especially in like Europe with like in like K1 and Glory and all that shit.
Right. Yeah.
I don't get why like the Muay Thai has.
I think it's because the U.S. is so saturated with sports in general. And like you said, boxing has always been kind of the staple in the U.S. as like a combat sport. It's really boxing and MMA. Now, kickboxing, Glory's been to the U.S. I don't think they've done great here. I remember Lion Fight. Lion Fight was a huge Muay Thai card, but they didn't do great here in the U.S. So I'm not sure. I think it's just the saturation of sports, and you got to deal with boxing, you got to deal with MMA, and that's what the people like.
Yeah, football has the country though.
100%.
But I mean, it also 100%. Has like a 60 or what is that 70-year head start. On
100%
on MMA. You know.
Yeah.
Because at least not MMA in total, but at least just the UFC. What was like 94 or something.
I think
like
94, 95. Yeah.
Because
really the sport's only been around. What, 30 years, maybe 30 years, probably 25 years.
It was a wild west back then, dude. It's funny going back to watch that from those first UFC events where you have like a dude that's in a gi. Against like some giant guy, you know? Gosh, and then like some of them they're like wearing shoes and gloves, and some of them they're not wearing shit. There was zero rules.
I remember there was one guy, I forget the guy's name off the top of my head, but he was wearing one boxing glove, and then he was bare knuckle the other hand. I forget what it was, but I think he fought Hoist, and Hoist choked him out. But like, Yeah.
We'll
Back
have to-
then was
we'll
the
have to
Wild Wild West,
We'll have to
man.
look that up later.
Yeah, we've
Add
come
that
a
in
long
there.
way, that's for sure.
So I wanted to ask you this question, and at first I'm gonna answer it
Yeah.
because I'm stupid.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
And I want you to tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
So I came into this and I wanted to ask what you thought the best martial art would be for a street fight.
Okay.
And here's my thought.
All right.
I thought of the whole table. I put every aspect into it.
Okay.
And for me, I believe it's Muay Thai
Okay.
because in a street fight, say you were at like a bar or something,
Right.
you don't know how many buddies the guy who's getting in a fight with you is going to be.
Right.
So the idea of like taking somebody to the ground or like I don't want to be tangled with somebody.
Right.
Like in my head.
100%.
So my idea would be like, worst case scenario, I'll just teep this fool into another dimension and then get the fuck out of there.
Right.
I feel like the whole internet community though kind of disagrees with me. They say more like no jujitsu over anything, which fair enough. Like if somebody gets their hands on you,
right,
I'm kind of fucked.
Yeah.
But my goal isn't to keep fighting with you because I'm not like if you get in a fight with somebody, you're not gonna stay at that bar.
Right.
Like
no.
I don't want that dude to come back and
You're
fucking
getting kicked
shoot
out,
me.
too.
Like I don't want to give him any ways to come
Right.
back and exact his revenge. Like I'm getting the fuck out of there.
Right. Well, I can answer this from a lens because I used to bounce, so I've seen a lot of bar fights. So I would say you're probably right. When guys, like you said, once you get entangled with somebody, or you take them down, you're on top of them. I've seen it time and time again. Your back is turned somewhere. Unless your back's to a corner or to a wall, somebody can come up behind you and give you a good old soccer kick or punch you or something like that. And no matter how much jiu-jitsu you know, whether you're a black belt or not, none of that can help you.
So
And
I was right.
yeah, so Brandon was right.
But
in my opinion.
I do agree. Like
Yeah.
you always see these videos online.
Right.
There's a lot of people that do a lot of good where they just post like videos of how
yeah.
jujitsu. Like if there's one person that's like causing a ruckus and
Yeah.
just like fucking with everybody, like on a subway or some shit,
Right.
you always see it.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is the best for that.
Oh, yeah.
Because okay, you can kind of size up the situation. You're like, okay, it's just this one guy.
Right.
He's gonna come up behind me.
100%.
That's if it were just two people in a desert,
Yeah. Oh,
that would change
jiu-jitsu,
the whole
100%.
change the whole thing.
100%. But like you said, like you said, it's about what environment you're in. But I would say in general, when you're at a bar or you're at a restaurant, somewhere where there's multiple people and you don't know if he's got buddies around here or not, usually things just happen quick. Muay Thai is great. And I say because although it is just a pretty much straight striking martial art, there is still pummeling and they're still tying up. And they still teach having inside control, being able to push away.
Yeah.
And you can still strike effectively.
If it came in close, you got elbows.
You got
and stuff that
elbows.
you could
Yeah,
tee
you got
up.
knees to the body. You can push them away. I agree with that. If it's one-on-one, like you said, out in the desert, I would say jiu-jitsu, and I think Hoist probably proved that in UFC 1 and 3, you know. This little guy in his gi was choking out everybody. So
yeah. That was just one thing that Andrew Tate had said. And
Yeah.
I was like, that makes like a
I've
lot
heard
of
him take
sense.
that-
Where he was saying like, you don't want to roll around when you
No.
don't know how many people are
heck
out
no.
there. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I get it. Because
I've seen it time and time again.
I didn't know you were a bouncer, dude. That's
Yeah. I
crazy.
bounced down in Pacific Beach
Oh my
when I lived out in San
gosh.
Diego.
I used to
So
live down
I
there
see
too,
a
dude.
lot. Yeah. So
That's a wild place.
that's a wild place to work on a Friday, Saturday night. And I
What
worked
was the spot?
backyard.
Oh,
Right there,
shit.
right at the end of Garnett, where everything
man.
happens, you know? So, yeah,
Was
I've
it
seen
like a
time-
weekly occurrence or
Oh, every day.
every single day you worked?
Every day that I worked at night, there was always something. Even on a Sunday. You'd be surprised, dude. The crazies come out on Sunday. Friday, Saturday, yeah, you got your problems, but Sunday, it would be slow, but the people in there, people who just, they couldn't get it all out on Friday, Saturday, so they come in on Sunday, they're the worst. So.
I need to find. There's this video that I saw. I think you love it. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've seen it already, but there's this little guy causing a ruckus at a bar.
Okay.
And there's just this big black security guard, and he picks him up like a child
And walks him out.
walks him out of the bar, and
That's
just
hey.
chucks.
Well
That is
done,
the
my friend.
greatest
Well
video.
done, my friend.
Oh man. Did you ever have like situations where somebody was like significantly bigger than you causing a ruckus?
Yeah, and it was like our bouncer kind of, I guess, team, you would say, over at Backyard. We didn't have like the biggest guys, which was like the biggest guy we had was probably like 6'3", 220, 225. So like when guys would come in and they were significantly bigger, causing problems, it's like, all right, it's not one of us. You got to get all of us, you know? And so we did it, and everybody kind of trained something, which was good. I really liked that. There were some guys probably that were like, hey, I'm ready for Friday, Saturday night. Let's go. Like, you know, that's what they live for. But most of the guys that worked there when I worked there, we all trained something, and like we would want to avoid having issues. And so
There's those other guys.
There's other guys that are like, let's get it going, bro.
Team, they're like, this is what we play for.
Yeah, exactly. I've been waiting for this all week, and you're just
they're like barking in the back.
You're like, dude, I've literally trained all week. I don't want to deal with any of this. So like, let's try to not go down that route. But yeah, I definitely had instances where like bigger guys that I would like have to wrestle or just get out of the bar, and like at all, like, and I would have to take control of the situation, like. And they were a much bigger guy, and thank God I never got hurt, and I did my job pretty well, I would say.
And were you fighting at that time too?
Yeah. I was living at the arena.
Oh my God, that must have been so nerve-wracking. You're like, please God, 100%. Don't let me get injured.
Because I was living at the arena, in the back with my boy Enrique, and then at night, I think Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and sometimes Sunday, I'd bounce, and so at backyard just to have some extra money. And yeah, it was interesting for sure.
You lived at the gym?
I lived at the gym. I lived literally. We had at the arena. There's if you've ever been to the arena or anybody who has been to the arena, there's like the main gym, and then back behind you go through this little tunnel area. That's where the pro team trains. They got their own room, but beside that was like a living quarters that we had. That the gym was trying to make like a fight team, kind of build like bringing guys in and allowing them to live there and train. And so I was like, oh, I want to live here and train. Like, that'd be great. I don't want to live in my mom's pad no more. And so they're like, yeah, you can live back here. I was like, cool. I'm showed up with my bed. I was there for probably a year. So, yeah, it was pretty cool, though.
Yeah,
I loved it, man. I was just training all day. I'd walk dogs, too. That was my thing. I would use a WAG, or I think it's called WAG is the app, where you just go walk people's dogs for money.
That's right.
Like, I'll do that, or
that sounds like a cool
charge
deal.
Scooters.
Dude, I did that too.
Okay, so
in downtown,
I had the setup at the gym, which I ended up getting in trouble. Sorry, Mike. So Mike was the manager at our gym. So when I lived there, of course, I was looking to get extra money, whatever. I got the Bird app, and I found the hack. Hopefully Bird doesn't sue me for any of this.
They probably fixed it.
Probably fixed it by now, hopefully. But so what I would do is I'd take my boy Enrique, and you get an app. The Bird app to get a scooter is different than the Charger. So the Charger has its own different app. So the Charger, you see where all these scooters are on the map, and they either have like green, yellow, or red for the pricing. So like a red scooter's like $20, green's like $10, $15, green or yellow's like $10, $15, green's like $5 to charge. And so what I would do is I would bring my boy Enrique. He'd be on the app to get a ride, to ride a scooter. He would go up to the scooter and say it was missing. That was the thing. So I was like, hey, report it missing and see what happens. It would pop up on my app and be read automatically since it was missing. So I would get $6, $7, $20 scooters, charge them on the gym's electricity, and then put them back out the next morning. So I had a little like good system going.
Dude, you figured it out, bro.
Dude, I hacked the system, man.
I was boondocking, bro. Like,
yeah,
I would literally be looking for those red ones. There was a couple times where like somebody would have their garage open a little bit.
Yeah,
I'd see it in their garage.
Yeah,
I'd just go in there, swoop that shit out,
dude.
Oh, dude.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing that was a pain in the ass, though, is you had to wake up butt-ass early in the morning to get them because the spots.
Yeah, 100%.
There would be people that I swear, they'd have like trailers just filled with scooters.
Oh, yeah.
And they'd just take all the spots, so you're like driving around trying to figure out where the hell you can drop them.
Yeah, I would see guys, they would have huge trailers with like 40 of them back there. And I was just a little guy. I had like 6 or 7 in my Charger, in the mornings. But yeah, I'd get up, put them out there. There was like a couple spots right by the gym. Be like, yo, I'm getting up at like 5. I'm putting them out there. So I get out there, put them out there, make my money. But
it was the Wild West, though, because I can't tell you how many times when I was looking for those scooters, I would like be walking through an alleyway. Because basically what the charging things is, I wouldn't take a car.
Right.
Like I would get all the ones that were close to my house. So
Okay.
I would just unlock a scooter that was near me and then ride that thing around to get them.
Okay.
I could stack up like 3 or 4 of them on top of that scooter sideways and then stand on all 4 of them.
Yeah, yeah. I seen dudes do that. I seen dudes do that.
So that's how I did it.
Yeah,
But there's so many times I'd be going down an alley and there's this guy I saw, his house, he had like a gate and then there was like a little embankment in between another fence. And he ran an extension cord from a business, like on the side of the house, ran it over to his house and was just charging it, stealing all their electricity.
That's awesome.
Dude, they cracked down on a lot of that scooter stuff, real quick.
Oh, yeah.
They lowered the prices so much. Like, I think the green ones were like, when I stopped doing it, it was like $2 or $3.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't even fit enough of these, because I was charging them in my apartment.
Right, yeah,
So, like, I'd take up my whole living room during the night.
100%.
Tons of scooters.
I'd have them stacked in the back of the living quarters, and I'd have a tarp over them. Then finally, the owner of the gym and the manager came in. They're like, "Yo, our electricity is probably like $500 higher than usual." They come back and they're like, "Yo, what's this tarp?" Then they saw the scooters. They're like, "Jeff, you can't do this anymore." I was like, "Okay,
dude, those things take up some power, dude."
Yeah. I got lucky. I was, it's fun to look back at and reminisce. Be like, man, I've come a long way. So you know what I mean? So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, man. Well, this went really good.
Yeah.
We'll keep it going.
100%.
Appreciate everybody that was listening.
Yeah. This is just the beginning. This was a good intro first episode. So you get your hosts and your co-hosts. Learn a little bit more about both.
You got to get the butterflies out a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. I think next time too, I'll ask you some questions.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah, and we'll go about it the next.
I definitely have a different perspective.
For sure.
But thanks to everybody for listening. Subscribe and like the video. Let us know if you have any questions for Jeff, because he's the man. And we will see you all in the next one.
Awesome.
All right.
Sweet.